Political analyst James M. Dorsey is joining us now from Yogyakarta, Indonesia, to discuss the Israeli elections and Benjamin Netanyahu's unexpected comeback. Welcome.
Pleasure to be with you.
Benjamin Netanyahu and his far-right allies are now in control of Israel. So what does this mean for Israelis who have now grown tired of political instability and uncertainty?
I think on the positive side, the fact of the matter is that this is probably going to be a relatively stable government. So with other words, we're not necessarily going to get a very quick new election. And of course, this has been a peaceful, so far at least, a peaceful transfer of power, which, if one looks at what happened in the United States, has to give Israelis confidence. Now, having said all of that, this is going to be a government that's going to have a difficult time. Beyond all the impact of global problems, food crisis, energy crisis, the war in Ukraine, the Israeli government will probably have, given its far-right nature, a difficult relationship with the Biden administration, irrespective of what happens in the midterm elections on Tuesday in the United States. And its right-wing partners, so with other words, Bibi Netanyahu has had a preference when he was last in government 14 months ago for the Republicans, for the right wing in the United States. The problem is that right wing, with the rise of the Christian nationalists, has become much more blatantly anti-Semitic. And that will cause problems both for Netanyahu inside Israel, but also with the American Jewish community, or at least segments of it.
Now, Palestinians are definitely going to be adversely impacted, as we have routinely seen in the past. What is a signal for Palestinians who continue to suffer from daily Israeli violations?
As a matter of principle, from a Palestinian perspective, not all that much has changed. The differences between the former government, that is to say, the government of Lapid and of Nathaniel Bennett, and the forthcoming Netanyahu administration are really in terms of tone, rather than in the differences, fundamental differences in terms of policy. If anything, it's probably going to get worse. Having said that, Netanyahu will probably have to strike a deal whereby he curbs the worst excesses of what some of his potential coalition partners, including the Jewish Power Party and Ben Gvir, and the trade-off is probably going to be more settlements, but not annexation or expulsion of the Palestinians.
Another critical question is that of normalization. Will the normalization with Muslim states be impacted? How could Benjamin Netanyahu's election win affect the normalization processes?
Well, I mean, we've had 4 Arab countries in the last couple of years, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco, establish diplomatic relations with Israel. The next row of candidates of the most important ones are, of course, Saudi Arabia on the one hand in the Middle East, and the Muslim majority countries in Asia, particularly Pakistan and Indonesia. Those countries are not going to move forward with formal relations with Israel, given the nature of this government and the fact that this government means that there's going to be no solution of the Palestinian problem while it is in office. Given all of that, countries like Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Indonesia will presumably maintain their informal ties to Israel, maybe even strengthen those informal ties, but they're not going to move towards normalization.
James M. Dorsey, thank you for your analysis.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.